My name is Norma Khouri. I'm 35 years old. I just turned 35. My nationality is I'm Jordanian. I'm Catholic, well, Orthodox. I had a very difficult childhood with my father. And then after that, my best friend gets killed by her father. And it was, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was at that point that I said, no more. Someone has to hear it.
And action.
Jordan is a place where men in sand-colored business suits hold cell phones to one ear and in the other hear the whispers of harsh and ancient laws blowing in from the desert. It is a place where a worldly young queen argues eloquently on CNN for human rights, while a father in a middle-class suburb slits his daughter's throat for committing the most innocent breach of old Bedouin codes of honor. It is a place of paradox and double standards for men and women, for liberated and conservative. Unlike the Jordan River, no longer strong enough to flow down to Amman, the desert drifts up to the city's boundaries. Like the sand that coats the streets after a windstorm, the Bedouin code is always encroaching on its urban streets. It permeates my family's neighborhood in Amman. Dense packed and tight-knit is a nomadic camp and filled with descendants of the original tribes. It is my home. I love its stark beauty, its sweep of history, and yet it may never be safe for me to return. I wrote this book about my friend that was killed in Jordan in an honor killing, and I wrote it to try and put pressure on the Jordanian government to abolish the existing laws that allow for this to continue.
Tell us more about your friend. Why did her brother murder her?
She was in love with someone that she could not be with. She was Muslim and he was Christian. So she was in love with someone that she could not be with, and she was killed for that when the family found out. Dalia and I were like sisters, born a couple of months apart in 1970. We met at a neighborhood park when we were 3, and almost instantly were inseparable. We each had very strict parents, and despite the fact that her family was strict Muslim while mine was Catholic, as we grew up, we faced similar obstacles that only strengthened the sisterly bond between us. Our parents never showed a hint of ambition for us beyond marriage. At 15, we discovered that Jordanian women were allowed to own and operate beauty parlors, one of the few careers open to them. Higher dreams didn't seem possible. She was stubborn, but not as stubborn as me. Very adamant in what she believed. She just made you feel like anything was possible within that country. Even though you knew you had your limits, she, when you were with her, made you feel that you really could do anything. We held the grand opening of N&D's unisex salon in May of 1990. Though we had to some extent designed our own cage, it was better than the one that would have been created for us. Dalia's brother Muhammad, assigned as our official watchdog, walked her to work every morning from the day we opened and kept a sharp eye on us through until closing.
Michael.
Our competitors credited the shop's popularity to the fact that it was one of Amman's few salons owned and operated by women that served a mixed clientele. Had we known that the decision to open the door to male customers would bring such heartbreak, I've wondered whether we would have done it. I don't think she wanted to fall in love with him at all. He had a great personality. He wasn't someone that was so restrictive like many of the other Arab men that were there, and he was just so funny.
Yalla, Dalia.
Our objective was clear and our mission was defined: invent a series of covert operations to make it possible for Michael and Dalia to date. We started charting on a neighborhood street map exactly where we thought our brothers and fathers would be during the crucial hours of the lovers' meetings. In public places, Dalia and Michael would refer to each other as brother and sister. After achieving every illicit Friday night date, we were a bundle of raw nerves. She never slept with him. After she was killed, they had even done the exam and she was still a virgin at the time of her death. So that they've never, other than kissing, and holding hands. They'd never done anything more than that.
سكري وقفلي الباب. أنا متأكدة إن محمد بيعرف إشي.
داليا مستحيل.
لا ما عم بتخيل. أنا متأكدة إنه شافني بالبوكسات كافيه.
Usually they'll use a knife. The knife is the symbol of honor in the Bedouin traditions, and that's why the majority of crimes are committed with a knife. You have to understand that the men of the family not only believe that they're cleansing the family's honor by killing the woman, they're also saving her soul. They're not doing it because they don't love each other. To them, it's a normal way to react. As I headed down the street in the direction of Dahlia's house, the road seemed to double in length before my eyes.
وين داليا؟
شو ماتوا فيها؟
Had I known then that after the stabbing he waited before calling the ambulance to make sure that she could not be saved, I think I would have killed him. I was just devastated. I wanted the whole world to know she was murdered. I wanted the whole world to know what an injustice the whole thing was. I left Jordan and then went to Greece. And I sat there and I wrote as much of the story as I could in an internet cafe in Thessaloniki. At the time, I was reading Hannibal Lecter. It was the only book I could get that was in English. And it happened to be published by Random House in the UK. So I emailed her and said, look, I'm writing a book about my friend's honor killing. And I got an email back from them saying, we only accept material through agents. And a light went on and I said, whoa, agents, I have to find an agent.
My relationship with this book started when an agent in New York called Christy Fletcher rang me up to say that she'd taken on Norma Khouri as a client. She was very excited about it, and would I be interested in selling the British and Australian rights on her behalf? Very often you don't expect someone who's very obviously writing in a second language. We don't expect them to produce polished, beautiful prose. But the story was good, she was telling it simply, and it was a dramatic enough story not to need the varnish of beautiful writing.
We bought the book on synopsis. It was very strong, it was very powerful, about a dreadful subject, honor killings. And we believed it was a book that could and should have a very wide audience.
They put a sizable six-figure sterling offer. I put the offer to the head agent in New York, who put it to Norma, who was delighted, who accepted it.
I didn't even read the contract, I just signed it. My main concern was, okay, she said she can get the book out there, let's get it out.
The book was just put out there, and all of a sudden, it was really immediate, the impact. It was published in 16 countries. It sold between 250 and 500,000 copies around the world.
The fact of her being a witness to what she'd seen was absolutely central, because here was a refugee, he was a survivor of this barbaric practice.
Dahlia's killer was her own father, who stabbed her 12 times in the chest and received a 3-month sentence from the religious court in Jordan. Norma Khouri, how common are honor killings?
The United Nations conservative estimate is that 5,000 women a year are killed in this way.
Diese berichtet von ihrer besten Freundin Dahlia, die von Vater und Brüdern grausam erstochen wird, nur weil sie einen Christen liebt.
It's not something that I forget. It's something that I live with. I made a promise to Dahlia that her death would not be in vain. Oh, God. The whole publishing thing was, God, it was like being on a different planet. It was like a different world. The book came out, and then within a couple of weeks, I got an email